Senator Tom Cotton of the state of Arkansas, which voted yesterday for Donald Trump. Tom Cotton had not endorsed anyone. I doubt he's endorsed anyone overnight, but I welcome you. Were you down in the state for Election Day, Senator, or were you up in D.C.?
No, Hugh, the Senate was in session this week, so I was up in D.C.
Now I got to ask you about two things in particular. Neither of them have anything to do with the election. The first is the Supreme Court vacancy, and the second is the so-called ceasefire in Syria. On the Supreme Court vacancy, I talked to Whip Cornyn, Senator Cornyn, 2 days ago. He said there is not going to be a hearing or a vote before the election. What does that say about after the election, though, if Hillary wins?
Well, Hugh, first off, I agree with John Cornyn and Mitch McConnell. I agree with you, who started the hashtag No Hearings, No Vote. In my opinion, no matter whom the president nominates, we should have neither a hearing nor a vote before the election. It's the rare occasion when the American people get to weigh in, not just on which party will control the White House and the Senate, but which party will control the appointment process that will determine the fate of the Supreme Court. And I believe that we should let the American people weigh in this close to the election. Furthermore, I draw support from that proposition from the current Vice President, Joe Biden, the current Senate Minority Leader, and the future Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, all of whom expressed similar opinions in the past under Republican presidents.
And Patrick Leahy, I believe, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee 01 through 03, and again in 07 and 08 when blockades existed, and who yesterday said that the Senate should do its constitutional duty and have a vote and confirm in a breathtaking turn of events that had spinnings like The Exorcist.
Yeah. Well, and I would also point out in terms of the Democrats' past positions on this, Hugh, yesterday there was a meeting at the White House. Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Harry Reid, Pat Leahy, Mitch McConnell, and Chuck Grassley. Of those six men, only two of them have never filibustered a Supreme Court nominee, and that would be Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley.
That's very good. All right, let me ask you then about the vacancy itself. I like to say you're a Harvard law school trained lawyer, and like Mike Pompeo, you probably learned more about the Constitution from Officers Candidate School than you did from Harvard Law School. But what do you think is the significance of the loss of the lion of the law, Justice Scalia?
Well, first, I do want to say that whoever ultimately takes that seat, whomever is appointed by whichever president, he or she will not replace Nino Scalia, because Nino Scalia is irreplaceable. He was a great jurist. He was a great American. He was a great man. And he really revolutionized the way that jurists and lawyers in America approach the Constitution, in which the text, structure, and history of the document has real meaning. And it is the authority to which even liberal judges and lawyers now appeal. So whoever we appoint, and I hope it's a conservative Republican who follows in Justice Scalia's footsteps, will still be following in Nino Scalia's footsteps.
All right. Now, that having been said, it raises the stakes of this election enormously. But while we go back and forth like a ping pong ball between the war and its manifestations in Paris or San Bernardino and domestic politics, in the war, it's been a very bad month. Russia appears to have won. Now, everyone else has lost, most especially 200,000 dead Syrians and a destroyed country and an unstable region. But Russia appears to have won.
Well, it's been a bad month. It's been a bad year. It's been a bad 7 years, Hugh. But you're right. Over the last 5 months, really, since Russia intervened in Syria, they have achieved almost every objective that they set for themselves. This is in contrast to Barack Obama, who at the time was saying it was a major blunder and that they were getting themselves into a quagmire. We now know that that Vladimir Putin has solidified the Assad regime. They're on the process of having Aleppo, a key town in northern Syria, completely encircled, where they can strangle out some of the last and strongest elements of the Syrian opposition. They have continued to drive more and more normal Syrians and other Arabs into the hands of the Islamic State, which presents itself as the true defender of these Arabs as against Bashar al-Assad's tyrannical regime and Vladimir Putin. They continue to drive more refugees and migrants out of Syria and into our allies, not just Jordan and Turkey on the borders of Syria, but all the way into Europe. And this is also achieving Vladimir Putin's long-term goal of dividing and ultimately fracturing NATO and the European Union, doing so in a way that's much lower risk than if he, say, conducted the kind of hybrid warfare in Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania that he did in Ukraine. So from the immediate term objectives to the global objectives Vladimir Putin set for himself, he has unfortunately been running circles around President Obama and achieving those objectives.
Now, to that end of reversing that, what does the United States do vis-a-vis the Sunni-Shia split? And this is a 1,300-year-old problem, right? We're not going to solve it, but what do we do to reduce the carnage and the instability that threatens, quite a lot of damage far beyond Syria's casualty list?
Well, it does threaten damage all around the world because, again, much of what's inflaming the Middle East is the Sunni-Shia split. Iran, for instance, is the largest Shiite nation in the Middle East, and they're supporting proxies in places like Lebanon and Syria and Yemen, probably funding covertly opposition in countries like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, all of which, to greater or lesser degrees, are American allies or American partners. This is something there's always going to be tension. You see this around the world, tension between various ethnicities or confessions, but that doesn't mean the tension is unmanageable. And America had largely begun to manage it in Iraq in the aftermath of the surge under leaders like Ryan Crocker and David Petraeus and Ray Arellano and so forth. President Obama squandered all those gains in 2011 when we withdrew entirely from Iraq, therefore withdrawing the leverage we had over the Shiite majority government, which led to a renewal of oppression against Sunni minorities. What we have to do, not just in Iraq, but throughout the region, is to work with both confessions, Sunni and Shiite, majority and minority in the countries as we find them, to try to promote stability in each country and therefore stability in the region. This is something America has done in the past, not just in Iraq after the surge. We did it for much of the Cold War when Iran was in the hands of the Shah. So in some ways, a bad guy, but not radical ayatollahs dedicated to death to America. And we were allied both with the major Shiite power, Iran, and the major Sunni power, Saudi Arabia, and many of the other smaller nations. So this is a manageable tension, but you're right, Hugh, that it's always going to be a tension. President Obama simply has done a terrible job of managing it.
Senator Tom Cotton, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you so much, and continued good luck in keeping the president's nominee away from the Supreme Court. I'll be right back, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.